Hello again, everybody. This is Carol King, the developer of Custom Home Builders Solution software, also known as CHS. This is Lesson 3 in our series of seminar videos about our job costing and accounting program for home builders. In our first lesson, we learned about setting up the cost centers or cost codes that are used throughout CHS to identify projected costs on a job's budget/estimate, to estimate change order costs, to create purchase orders or work orders, which are committed costs, and to identify actual job costs. In the second lesson, we learned about how to set up jobs with their spec measurements. So now we are ready to predict a new job's cost by doing a job budget or estimate that will use both the cost codes and a job. On the job budget worksheet that we will open, you will be able to predict the costs based on various things. You could either request bids, upload or post bids, drill down on historical data because you're connected to accounting, and look at averages of past jobs and their actual costs to come up with what you might want to estimate for. Use items for estimating, and how you can set up different templates for the budget printouts, like for construction, not for construction, proposal, give different titles and verbiage on the budget printouts that you use as a great proposal to get the job. So let's get started taking a look at doing a job budget or estimate. Now, before I open the CHS program to start talking about creating a job budget, I would like to mention something that all consultants say that you should understand: the difference between what a markup percent is and what a profit margin is when you are estimating and then deciding what price to charge the customer or how much markup to put on the job. So right up front, when you log in on the login screen, there is a link here for click this for our free tool. It is right up front so that you can use it. It is a thing that's sort of outside of CHS, so that it's here so that you can get to it because it is so valuable. And I have opened it. It opened in another tab, and there is a full help video about understanding the difference between a markup percent and a job's profit margin. This is just like a calculator. It's not stored anywhere. It's a tool for you to use. And I have put in, say, $400,000 for job costs, and I've heard that I should get a 20% margin. So if I put in 20% in the markup percent field, my margin suddenly drops. There's a difference between those two, and this tool will show that. And if I put in 25%, I can see that my job's profit margin is 20%. Now you need to go ahead and watch this help video or learn more with our candy bar example about the difference between a markup percent and a profit margin. And this calculator tool is designed for you to put in other revenues, like maybe rentals, put in some commission percent, sort of look at your stuff and put in what you're expecting for the year. And I would do this as if you were doing it on an annual basis, and then put how much you'd like to get out and see if you're getting a positive or negative cash flow based on the markup percent that you put in. You can keep changing it after you put the other stuff in to see what markup percent you're going to need to charge to actually be able to take home some money. I won't go into all the details. There's help video and all sorts of information, but I wanted you to know that that's there. So here we are on the CHS menu again, and I wanted to point out a couple of things. This would be the area or the line we'd probably be working on budgets and bids and this and that most of all. But I want to point out something. If I do something like change orders down here, and I go to the change orders menu, I will need to select a job from the drop-down list to then work on the change orders for that job. I'm going to close that. If I go to something like purchase orders, and I do purchase orders menu, I would have to select some various jobs from and to work on for purchase orders and decide which ones I want. But if you go to the active jobs dashboard, which will let you select from a list of active jobs, we talked about that in the jobs list, and I select a job like Loveman, you're going to see that I can go to the change orders for Loveman, the purchase orders for Loveman, and I won't be being asked for the job again that I'm interested in. The other thing I'd like to talk about, since we're going to be talking about budgets, is that if I click job budgets right here on the menu, I'm going to be asked if I want to open a list of all budgets and an ECC list, or if I want to go to the jobs dashboard. I'm going to start here for a second because this is a handy window. You'll see that it shows jobs with budgets and jobs without budgets. And it is showing all jobs. If you just wanted to see the active jobs, you could click the active link here, and we just get ones that have yes for active instead of all the jobs that we've ever set up. What I'd like you to notice is that we have one here called Floor Plan B, and that we have a budget created, and you can tell that because it's in this list, and you can do the amount, and you can open the budget worksheet by clicking that number. It is marked as a what-if job because the builder intends to use this budget that he created to copy from to start a new budget. And I want you to be aware of that because we'll talk about copying to start a new budget in a minute. But this is a template so that if he's doing a job similar to how he sets up the whole budget and everything, he can also just select to copy and start a new budget by copying the budget from Floor Plan B. And I'll show you how in a minute if the new job has a little bit of different specs and measures. CHS is smart enough to know that and bring the right quantities in. But I just wanted to show you that. And if I jump back to the jobs dashboard and I select that Floor Plan B, notice that you don't have near as many menu options. That's because a what-if job will not show up for doing actual job costs or for much of anything actually except for creating a job budget. So I'm going to go back to the home menu. And I'm going to actually open the jobs list that we talked about in the last seminar lesson. And there's one thing I didn't talk about. That is that not only can you copy from another job's budget, but you can actually start a new job by copying from another job. See, I have this Loveman job here. Notice right here it says copy. And I'm just going to call it Loveman 2 so we can keep ourselves straight. And I'm going to do add new copied job. Hopefully it's some other new customer or you use the address. And I think that one's at 900 Bolden, so I'll just call this one 901 Bolden for the address. But what I want you to see here is it's already marked as custom. It's already marked as CH. And I'm going to put 1430 for where I want the job costs to be. It does not automatically supply that because I want you to think about that. And we talked about that in the previous video. But it does bring in all the specs. Now, in a little bit, I'm going to change the living square feet on this one, but we're not going to do that right now. I'm just saving this copied job as Loveman 2. Now, it will be, when I go back to the jobs dashboard, Loveman 2 will be here. And if I click to do a job budget worksheet from here for that job, it knows that I haven't done a budget before. So it's giving me some various options. Now, I'd like you to think about that cost codes master that we set up with various notes, various measures. We gave default measures of living square feet and slab square feet to certain cost codes. So you have the option of creating a budget from the cost codes master, which means it will open and start with all of the cost codes that you set up. And I'll show you how you get rid of all the zero lines that you don't actually use. But this one is use cost codes master and pricing defaults with default notes and bring in all those generic items we saw. This one will not bring in the generic items. It will bring in the default notes. So that's your two options. So if I select this and I say yes, include the items photos, it now tells me a new budget has been created, and to close all of this and to then click that link again. We're going to see what we got. We're only going to look at this real briefly because we're actually going to go to one that has more data. Notice we have all these zero lines, but we suddenly have some lines. Like this was a default from the cost code master, so was this. And if we go down, we'll start seeing some measures. Living square feet. This budget brought in the living square feet. And if I hover over this right here, you can see that it's doing 1508. Quantity times 100% times the unit price. If I drill down on it is when I can really see it. 1508 quantity, unit price, which then I could change the unit price right now. But you can see how you've already got some numbers started that are totaling to this amount down here. And slab square feet for engineering, this and that. Slab contract. And then you can start editing other ones that have zeros on it. And a lot of builders like to bring in all the cost codes because it helps remind them of what they might be missing. So if you look through here, you'll see all these various zero lines, and it might remind you, say for building permits, oh, I need to budget for building permits, or various other things, or I don't want any of these because I'm having nothing to do with lot costs, etc. First of all, you can do a report real quickly of your zero budget lines, if you'd rather just look at just the zero budget lines, to see what you might have missed putting a number in. Now, of course, we're not through with this budget. We do a whole lot more work, but I'm going to delete this budget in a minute and show you copying a budget from another job before we start drilling down and seeing how you're adjusting your numbers. Now, the tool that I'd like to show you is a tool to get rid of all these zero lines in one fell swoop. So over here under Add or Remove Lines, it says Remove Zero Lines. I could open that report again of zero lines first, or I could just click this to delete all the zero lines and say OK. Now you'll notice that every line has an amount in it, and we don't have all those zero lines junking things up. Just wanted to point that out. I am going to delete this, and just by going back to the jobs dashboard, first of all, I do need to close. I'm back on the jobs dashboard, and I need to select Loveman 2. I selected Loveman because I have opened the original Loveman budget here in a tab. Now notice how this is 409,192. It's the budget we did and put in a bunch of numbers and various notes for. But back on the jobs dashboard, let's delete that budget we did. And let's start again. The other option you get when you don't have a budget is to copy from another job's budget, and you have three choices. One, to use the budget from the selected job with that job's unit prices. It'll also copy job items by area, room, etc. Or use the budget from another selected job with no unit prices for whatever reason. It will also copy the items, or use a budget from the selected job, but use the unit pricing from the cost codes master that you remember we set up with some default unit prices, and items will not be included. It's just sort of copying the same lines and the same measures, etc. But let's select to copy from the Loveman job. We're going to copy a budget from the Loveman job. Now, a lot of times it could be that template you set up like Floor Plan B. And I'm going to select to use the budget from the selected job with the job's unit prices. And I'll say Include Items Photos. Tells me it's been made, so we'll go ahead and open that new budget that's been made. And notice how it has the exact same price as the budget from the job that we copied from. It has this exact same budget total. And our new one, Loveman 2, has the exact same budget total. So it's copied in everything, the quantities and the slab square feet and this and that. But the thing it would do is look to the new job, and if the slab square feet had been changed for the new job, there would be a different quantity here and this amount would be a little bit different. I want to go show you that now that I mentioned it. So let's close this budget for Loveman 2. Let's go back to the jobs dashboard. Let's delete that budget. And let's go ahead and edit the job setup specs. Remember, we were editing jobs and setting up jobs in our previous video. But I want to change the living square feet to, I'm not sure, I'm just going to change it to something. And I'm going to click Edit, and we'll just keep it simple and make it 1600 instead of 1508. And I'm going to submit that. Let's close that. So it has different specs than the original job that we copied this from. So now let's go create a budget worksheet again, and we're going to copy from the other job's budget, which was Loveman. And we'll select the same thing to bring in the unit prices, etc. It's been created, so let's go see what happened now with this new job. Notice that it's 410,820.69 and the one we copied from was 409. The difference is the living square feet. Notice plan costs, architect fees, living square feet for the one we copied from was 1508, but plan cost, architect fees, the quantity is 1600, being multiplied by the unit price that was brought in from that other job. I'll just mention real quickly that you can start changing what the unit price is and everything else about this if you like. But I wanted to point out that it will adjust to the specs for the new job, even though you're copying from another job. Now the thing I'd like to point out is let's take a look at this plan costs and architect fees. There's no buyer notes here, but let's look at the budget for Loveman. Plan costs and architect fees. There are buyer notes, so I'm pointing out that it does not bring in the internal and the buyer notes from the budget that you copied from, and there's a good reason for that. It can give you a big problem. This is our job that we copied from, and you're going to notice that in here I have some links to some plans for that job. Now what if you suddenly left these buyer notes and they got copied into the new job, and you have links in here and you overlooked that those were here? CHS automatically dropped in the notes from the other job. You would maybe have links to plans to the first job, etc., etc., so it could be a problem. When you copy a budget from another job, we do not copy in the internal and buyer notes. What we do is bring in those default budget notes I showed you that you can set up. So if I go to the budget for Lebanon 2 that we just brought in, I'll see a few buyer notes are here, and we'll see the sewer service, and that comes in from the setup of the default of the master budget notes that I showed you when setting up cost codes. So this came from the cost codes master for the sewer service, but back on the job that we copied from, there's some notes here. But notice it's per Vic Plumbing, and it's very peculiar to this job. So it did not copy these notes to the new one. It only copied in budget default notes. So it's a good idea to get those budget default notes set up and rather generic that are not particular to a certain job, so that it will go get that part from the cost codes master and not from the job you copied from. I just wanted to make that really clear. Before I leave this, let's just show you that there is full help about doing budgets, and you'll see that there's very detailed tutorials, more detailed than this video is, and various information about all kinds of things here. So what I'd like to do is open the framing package for a second, because we'll start talking a little bit about how you can get the pricing in for something. It is found that there are items that did come in from the other job, but it's saying alert, items do not match budget. Click this and you can see the total of the items, but the budget is this much. So if you're kind of trying to figure out what is that all about, and maybe I need some notes about that, I could go look at the job I copied from to see what that's about. And the builder has written in here that they've added a 20% contingency, and they've done that by making the quantity 120%. So this is calculating 1 times 120% times the unit price, so that it has a higher amount that you're budgeting for than actually what you got as a bid or as you figured out from items. But what you can do is click in this, highlight over it, hold down your control key and press the letter C, control C, to copy it. And let's just close this. We didn't make any changes. Let's go back to the Lebanon 2 job, and let's click in that box and do control V as in Victor to paste in that note. And then I will submit it. So let's take a look at what those items are all about, and that's one way to do budgeting. And let's see what this builder has for items here. These items came in from the Loveman job that we copied from and checkmarked them all as budgeted. So these are here budgeted and ready to go. Now maybe for this particular job, we are actually not going to need something that he put here as an item, and we could uncheck it. We could also add new items, and I'm not going to get that detailed. Our detailed tutorials talk all about all of that. But what I wanted to show you is that maybe you want to send out a bid request in case it would be different now anyway on these frame materials. So if I do select all under the bid request, notice there's a column to check mark. You could do them one at a time, or you could select all, and it's asking if that's okay. So it did. And now it's showing the amount of these items to be on a bid request. I can prepare bid requests from here, and it's going to show me all my suppliers that I have set up to be attached to this cost code. And we are using ProBuild, so I'll just use that one. You could send out a few bid requests to BMC or whoever. And I'm going to say with quantities, and I'm going to open the PDF that CHS created. Notice it's not putting any of the prices in because they are supposed to be doing their bid on these, but we have a pretty good description from this builder about what we need. And the other thing I forgot to show you is that if we had some plans uploaded, we could first select those, and URL links would be on the bid request for that. But I've opened that and I've seen that it looks okay, so I'm going to close that. And then it's going to ask if I want to send the bid request via comments, so I will. So it's set up to be sent to ProBuild. A link to a bid request is for our job is here, and I could send it, but I won't do that because I'm not a real builder and I don't want to send some weird thing out to somebody. So I'll just close that. So anyway, that's how you send a bid request out, and then they will get a link saying open our communication portal. They can print that PDF out, scan it, or do whatever, and they can upload it and put it back in a comment back to us, like attached is our bid for this. So that's what happens with that, and once you get it back, we'll get back to purchase orders and other stuff about other stuff on these items. So that's one way that you could be figuring out what to budget for here. But because we are attached to accounting, you can do something like look at cost code history and then cost sum by job with averages of job, or actual budget variance with unit cost variances. And if I say the job status, I'm going to just do from closed to sold because we only have one closed one. We do this based on frame square feet. We'll see what happens for the actual costs and the budgeted costs. What you can see going on here, it's averaging everything that shows up here, but you can do assert. Let's just say we want to see all the jobs that are between 2,000 framing square feet and 3,000 framing square feet, just assert. That way we only get 3, so the average that you're getting here might make some better sense to you. You can see the unit. If we did have frame square feet, you can see unit costs going on here for the budget. And we haven't posted any actual costs so far for these particular jobs. But if there were, you could see that in how much over under budget by unit price that you've got. Drill down to figure out some averages. And perhaps you decide your average is 28,000 and you just change all this to 1 and type in 28,000 here. Whatever you'd like to do. So that's a really handy tool to be able to drill down on the cost code history. There's various things you can do using the bids, drilling down on the items, or just copying from another job so that you get these amounts in and you leave them alone. So you can see how that happens and watch our detailed tutorials about all of that. So let's pretend that we've gathered all of our numbers either from items or from bids or for looking at averages and all kinds of things, and we've decided this budget total is what we'd like. What I'd like to show you is the estimated cost at completion worksheet for this job. Notice that we have an original budget column here, and the budget is this. And we have an estimated cost at completion column here, and the estimated cost at completion, or ECC, is the same amount as the budget because we've not issued any change orders to change the ECC or any POs or any actual costs. We haven't posted any actual costs that we're paying. So right now, this ECC is just sitting here. I'd like to show you the ECC for the job we copied from because there has been some activity. There's been some POs issued. You can see a total of POs here. There's been some actual costs posted. You can see that here. So the ECC is adjusting, and we will be going over all of that as we go to show how it's adjusting. Next video I'll issue a few POs and show you changing the ECC, and we'll also do some change orders following that. So this is showing over budget by 1246. And there's some various things here that I'd like to show you. We have a line here called K-tops and tubs that is marked with an A, which means it's an allowance, and it's showing going over by 550 if you look at the amount that's been posted for actual costs versus what we originally budgeted. I wanted to point that out because I'd like to talk about allowances for a minute, and I'm actually going to go to the budget for Loveman 2 for that. But notice allowances right here. I'm going to click something to explain what those are. And I'm going to click Help first of all. There will be detailed videos right here about allowances and what to do with them. But in here it says some builders authorize their customers to spend a limited amount on certain areas of the budget and then make an agreement with the customer that the customer will pay any overages for that cost, and perhaps that the builder will credit the customer for amounts that are under the limited amount. This type of cost is referred to as an allowance in CHS, but some builders also refer to it as options. So the way you mark something that it is an allowance, like I said, is that you put a measure code on it called allowance. And you might have certain ones set up on your cost code master with that measure code of allowance so that you don't have to sit here in the budget worksheet and mark all of those. But first of all, you can open an allowances worksheet and agreement that will show you all your allowance items and the amounts for the allowance items, and this is the budget amount. If you decide that you are going to charge them a markup percent on any overages or a markup percent for any credits, any things that they go under, and give them credit for that, you can type that in here. So if I put 25% here for overages and 25% here, I can submit that. You can see all the notes that you've written, and hopefully you have good notes when you print the allowance agreement for them, because it'll show the buyer notes on the allowance agreement. So let's do the allowance agreement. And you can send this to PDF for better formatting, but you can see that it's all the budgeted amounts with all of the notes and a place to sign at the bottom. So that's pretty handy. Then you would send it to PDF and perhaps send it to the customer, but the customer can also open the home buyer portal and see the allowances agreement there if you authorize them to. And you can do an allowance agreement that shows all those items that we talked about also. I was doing that in our current job, which is fine to show you the allowance agreement. But let's go to the budget for the job Loveman, because I'd like to go to allowances for that, the original one, so that we show that overage on the allowances. So this is our over-under allowance. And you can see that right here from that K-tops, we're over by 550. Our estimated cost of completion is going over. So it grabs the estimated cost of completion, compares it to the budget, and because we told it to mark it up 25%, the allowance adjustment is $687.50. If this is a fixed contract, CHS will start adding the total of allowance adjustments to the contract, and this makes the best sense towards the end of the job after all sorts of things have happened. But it's going on right now. You can tell them where they're headed with their allowance overages. So I just wanted to point that out and how you do that. So back to our budget. Okay, we feel like we're all done with our stuff. Everything's marked correctly. I'd like to say that you can lock or unlock the budget. By locking, anyone can see a job's budget who can see a job's budget can lock the budget. However, only a user with top permission level of 1 or 2 can unlock a budget. Locking a budget means that the dollar amounts cannot be changed on the budget. Notes and comments, etc. will still be able to be changed. So if you lock this, that means nobody's going to be able to change these amounts anymore, and only a person with a higher level permission can come in and unlock it. The next thing we need to do, now that we are locked in on our budget total, is to decide on a price for this job. So I'm going to click this button, Set Price Contract Type. And by setting contract type, I mean that we need to mark this as a fixed contract because that's what we're going to start with. And the builder has put in that they want a desired profit percent of 20%. Which is different than your markup percent, and if you watch our video like I mentioned earlier about the difference between those two and use our markup and profit margin percent tool, you'll understand that better. But there is a question mark that gives you a candy bar example about what the difference is between desired profit percent and a markup percent. So to get the desired profit percent based on this budget amount, CHS is suggesting a price based on what you type in here, and a markup percent and a builder fee, and we'll see that here in a minute with the other two types of jobs. So this builder has decided, well, okay, I'm just going to give it a price of $515,000. So put that in. The fixed price minus the job budget is this profit, and so this estimated profit percent is a little bit higher than the 20 because we put the price at a little bit higher. And when you close it, you'll get a notice because of that profit percent being different. This job is marked as a fixed price contract, but the contract price is more than $2 different than what's in the marked up column right here. See this total? It's not $515,000. Do you want to open the tool to apply a calculated markup percent to your budget that will cause the marked up total column to be the same as your contract price? So let's open it. Now here's where you could just type in a markup percent if you hadn't had anything in the column. We have a 25% in the entire column right now because of copying from the other job, etc., etc. But right here, contract price $515 that we put in, budgeted costs, and CHS will calculate a markup percent that if you use this button will cause the marked up column to get probably within about a penny or exactly on using this markup percent. It will apply it to all the cost codes in the budget. So I'm going to say OK. It tells me it's been done. I'm going to close that, and you can see that we come to within a penny now, and that the markup percent has adjusted to try to get this marked up column as close as it can. Sometimes with rounding we just have to deal with these penny differences, but it makes it very, very close. Now the thing is, speaking of allowances, some builders do not want to put a markup percent on the allowances because they want that customer to see these amounts when they get the proposal in a little bit, because they don't want somebody thinking that water service they're supposed to go spend $13,000. They're actually supposed to go spend $10,000. So I'd like to show you the markup tool again, and that there is another button here that says or have CHS calculate and apply a markup percent based on the contract price and budgeted costs that are not allowances. So let's see what happens if we do that. It says it's applied it, refreshing. Now we're a penny off the other way because of all the rounding, but I'd like you to show that now this markup percent is in here for all of this, 30.59, and the allowance ones have a 0. So that when we go print our great budget proposals, which I'm going to do for this fixed price one now, I'm going to do all budget reports. I'd like you to watch our videos about how you can get that sale based on your great proposals, and how you can set up various sort of templates to control what shows at the top or the bottom of the proposal. You can set up as many of these as you like. This builder has something called proposal, which will change what's at the top of the proposal and what's at the footer of the proposal based on verbiage that the builder sets up. I'm going to select proposal and continue to the budget reports. Now don't let this overwhelm you. If you start looking at this, most of these buttons are the same as these buttons, and these are the same as these buttons. But these will show you, in this column, just the budgeted costs only. This you might use, and we'll do it in a minute, for a cost plus builder fee. This column, budgeted and marked up, will show both the columns of the budgeted and marked up, which you might be doing for your own use, and also doing for a cost plus markup customer. This column would be used for a fixed contract proposal. So I'm going to open the one with buyer notes, and all they see is the marked up amount. So the ones that were marked as allowances will be the same as the budgeted amounts, but they won't really know that. And when they go to the bottom of the report, they will see within a penny, and sometimes right on, the total of all these cost breakdowns that is really equal to the price. Now notice this box here. This builder in his footer entered a signature, and we are in what's called a web view, HTML web view, and we need to export it to PDF to see this all in better format. This is also his footer that he set up and his verbiage in that template that I mentioned a minute ago. So let's export to PDF. Open with our PDF reader, and I just wanted to show you that when you do that, the signature that he uploaded into his footer is showing up. This will be formatted much better. That web view sometimes won't break by pages, this and that, but it's just for you to have a quick view or quickly print something. And to get it to PDF or to Excel, which you can see right here, we need to open it in the HTML web view. So that's the great proposal with all the notes that you could then save that PDF, send to the home buyer, do whatever you like with it. So the next thing is, let's change it to a cost plus builder fee. And that would be this one. You check mark that. And you notice right here that with the 20% for a builder fee, it is suggesting 102,705.17, which I've already typed in. But you can click this to set the builder fee to get the desired profit percent, and it would drop that in for you. I'm going to enter a price right now for 513,525.86. On a cost plus builder fee, this is kind of a moot point, but on the printout you probably want to, it totals down and shows a price right now when you're beginning the job. So this is the budget plus the builder fee as the price, less the job budget, original profit, and 20%. So let's go see our proposal for that. Going to select proposal again. You can do ones not for construction, all kinds of things. So this is the column I suggest you use for a cost plus builder fee. So the one with buyer notes is going to have the same thing at the top of the proposal and all those buyer notes, that kind of thing down here. And at the bottom, because it's a cost plus builder fee, it's totaling to the budget, because a cost plus customer gets to see what you're budgeting, adds the builder fee to it, and does budget plus builder fee, which equals what's showing up in this box over here. So that's why I talk about don't set up a cost code center for a builder's fee. CHS is going to take care of putting it in at the bottom here, and you don't want to have to keep trying to pretend like you're entering stuff for a builder's fee on some line here as you progress through the job. So that's a cost plus builder fee, which would look better if it was exported to PDF. But let's jump back over to setting the price, and let's do cost plus markup. That means the home buyer is going to pay all the costs at some marked up percent. That's the agreement that you have. And it is suggesting various things for the 20%, that a 25% markup should be used. I can click to set the job markup percent to the budget markup percent, which would take it to that amount that we wanted here. Or click this to get the desired profit percent, which is the 25%. But we want to get this to where it shows equal to what we did with all those allowances, etc. So we are getting just a tiny bit more here, and we should type in 514,999.99, or we could put the 515 in here just to get it rounded and to look okay on our reports. So it's still showing budget plus markup 514,999, but that's what we want. It's a penny different from that. So when we do our report, back to the report, select proposal, and I told you for a cost plus markup we would want to use the one under budgeted and marked up. So with buyer notes, if we go down here, it is showing that there isn't a markup percent on those allowances, and it's showing the markup percent on the others, but that all of it totals to within a penny of what you stuck in here for the price to estimate what it might cost. Of course, that is a moving target again because it's cost plus, so that price might be changing when you do contract balance reports, etc. An interesting one here is stage totals only. Remember how we talked about job stages and that you set those up? You can see that it is showing how much cost codes amounts is in each stage. So this can give you a good idea of how much might be being drawn for the marked up amount at various stages in the job. So it's a little forecast that's kind of handy. There are other reports all over here and various things. You can print ones with all your zero lines if you haven't removed them like I showed you. Or if you still have zero lines, you would use these for no zero lines. And there's various things builders have asked for, and there's a budget that shows all the items, various kinds of things like that. Everything can be sent to Excel or PDF. But hopefully I have made the point about doing your work on a budget worksheet and a little bit about how you can get a great cost proposal to give to that home buyer and get that job. We will move on to a video that's going to show how we're going to change the cost at completion by issuing some purchase orders, and then after that some change orders. So please take a good break and then come back and stay tuned for the other videos in this seminar. Thank you for watching.